Welcome to my channel mttech.live, your hub for the latest in tech innovation in digital train. Today's video is about DNS, domain name system. So before configuring the reverse lookup zone and forward lookup zone, let's deep dive and have enough information about DNS. What is DNS? So in short, if I tell you what's DNS, DNS is responsible for storing and resolving all of the names on our network. It means whenever a user or computer tries to connect any resource by calling for a name, DNS is the platform which is responsible for turning that name into something else. In order to get the traffic to the correct destination, as an example, the traffic gets from client to server is via networking and typically via the TCP/IP stack. Using an IP address to get to its destination, or in short, when I open an application on my computer to access some data that resides on a server, I could configure the application so that it can communicate directly to my server by using the server's IP address on the network. As you know that we had already installed the DNS server and we could start using it to create DNS records, which resolves names to their corresponding IP address or other pieces of information needed in order to route our traffic around the network. Assuming that you're working in a domain network and you may be pleasantly surprised to see that a number of records already exist inside DNS, even though you haven't created any of them. When you're running Active Directory and DNS together, the domain giant process that you take with your computers and servers self-registers a DNS record during that process. So here I have a short definition for DNS. What is DNS? So DNS, domain name system, is a hierarchical distributed naming system that translates human-readable domain names. So whenever we type in our browser www.mttech.live, it translates or it maps an address to an IP address that computer use to identify each other on a network. In simple terms, if I explain this to you, DNS works like the phone book. It lets users access website things using easy to remember names instead of a numerical IP address, such as you have a telephone. In your telephone, you save a name with a telephone number. Whenever you wish to call that person, then through the names, you will find the person and you will call him. This is called DNS. So in DNS, we have 10 types of records. And here is the kinds of DNS records that I want to show you. The first one is the A record, which directly refers to IP version 4. The second one is 4A record. It refers to IP version 6. So the third one is called alias record as CNAME record. And later on, I will show you in DNS server how to create a record under CNAME. The fourth one is the mail exchanger record, MX. And I will show you as well whenever we configure a mail server in our network using mail exchange server, then we have to have a record for the mail exchange server under MX in our DNS server. The fifth one is name server as NS record, we'll show you later. Then PDR pointer record, and we have the 7-1 text record that I will show you in next slide. What is text record and how does it show and how does it seem. In the 8th one, we have SOA, start of authority record, as we'll show you later, an SRV service record, and CA certificate authority authorization record. Here are the 10 records of the DNS, each explained individually. In this slide, I will show you how DNS works. Here is a user. Let me get a pen. Here is a user. The user types a website such as www.google.com. The computer now needs to find the IP address of that domain. Before asking the internet, the browser itself checks the browser DNS cache, checks the operating system DNS cache, or checks the local host files. If the IP address was recently added, it's already stored locally. No external DNS query is needed. If not found, it will continue to the next step. The next step is this computer sends a query to a recursive DNS resolver. And who is the recursive DNS resolver? No one but our ISP, this one. Or public DNS services like Google DNS, which is 8.8.8, or a Cloudflare DNS 1.1.1.1. The recursive resolver's job is to find the IP address for you. This resolver checks its own cache and asks itself, do I already know the IP for the www.google.com? If yes, it immediately returns the answer back to this computer, to the user computer. If it doesn't know, then it must ask the DNS server. And who is the DNS server? Here, the third step, the root server. If the resolver doesn't know the answer, as I told you, it asks the root DNS server, which is this one. If the root server doesn't know the IP address, instead it replies back to this server, the DNS server or the recursive resolver server. I don't know the exact IP, but ask the .com TLD server, which is this server. Next, the resolver asks the .com TLD server top level domain server. Where is www.google.com? The TLD server response asks this authoritative name server. And the authoritative name server is here. What is the job of the authoritative name server? It provides the address of the domain's authoritative DNS server. Now, the authoritative server responds with something like, if you have www.google.com, then the IP address is, for example, 192.111. The address returned to resolver. The address returned to the resolver, which is here. And the resolver's job is to store it in its cache for faster future requests and sends the IP back to this computer. When this computer receives the IP address of the www.google.com, so here the address is found, and the IP address for the google.com is found, then it directly connects to the website. Then after connecting to the website will be browsed in user's computer here. This is how DNS works. As you have already got enough information how DNS works, let's clean the page and let's jump to the next slide. So here, as I explained to you already, the summary flow of DNS. So here, as you already know, that we have already installed Windows Server 2025 in our previous video, and I showed you how could we install the Active Directory DNS and DNS server. So here I type my password. So this is our server. And as well, I installed Windows 10 PC, and I want to turn it on as well. At this point, I will show you how to join a computer to a domain. So this is our computer, and I'll type the password of this computer. This is a first installed computer, and I didn't join this computer to the domain. That's why it takes a couple of seconds. So before joining a computer to a domain, it's important to add an IP address to that computer. So here we have the adapter of this PC and properties, then IP version 4. So here I have already had an IP address 192.168.1.40. And here the default gateway will be our server. So that's 192.168.1.10. This is the IP address of our server. In here, the preferred DNS server is our DNS server IP address 192.168.1.10. Then OK, and close. So let's ping if we are able to ping our server through the command. So here I open the command, and here I ping my server, ping 192.168.1.10. If it pings successfully, then this computer can join the domain. So here the reply came from 192.168.1.10, which is nothing but our server. So let's join this computer to the domain. Let's open the properties of the computer, and let's rename this PC as, let's name it sales department, COMP computer. And let's change the name of this computer from this name to John. And let's join this computer, or let's name this computer as sales department computer, and let's join this computer to the domain. So our domain was mttech.live, and okay. Do you want to use this computer name? Yes. And now it communicates to the server, and here we have to enter the credentials of the domain. It is administrator at mttech.live, and I enter the password and OK. If our credentials are OK, the password in the domain name. So here we will get the notification, welcome to the mttech.live domain. Okay. And the computer needs restart. Then you will apply OK and restart. As you know, we have already created a user in our previous video, and the username was John at mttech.live. Let's log in with the user credential. So here we are able to open under the username of John. So let's check our server. What changes came to our server? So this is our server, mttech.live. As previously, we installed the ADDS and DNS server, and we configured both of them. And this is the IP address for this computer. Then let's check. Don't think about this error. Sometimes when the services get restarted, so we have to manually start them. And I will show you later how we disable this error. So let's see the Active Directory users and computers. So here we have our user sales department, John. And here we have the sales department computer because the computer is joined under this domain. So the computer name comes directly to this computers folder. And this is our domain controller, mttech.com. And let's add some more users. And the second user I will add casting. So the user login name will be Kerstin. And here I will enter a password. For Kerstin, and user cannot change the password, and password never expires. Then next and finish. This is the email address or the user login name. So if we check the properties of this user, we see some other properties as address. You can write the address here as well, like Gallenberg and here you write the city, state, Zip code will be 37,462, and I will choose Germany. And here is the account of Kerstin file, and you can add the telephone numbers as well, like 888 or 801 345 786. The pager, mobile number, if she has 156 72 53 98. And here we can add an extra note. This is sales department employees information, and the job title of this employee is a manager, and department is sales department, company MT Tech, and apply and OK. And if we want to move this user to the sales department, then we choose the user and we move it to the sales department. Now in sales department we have 2 employees, and if you wish to add another organizational unit, so you'll write here HR department. Okay, and I will create a user directly in this department, Elena, and the last name is as well Elena, and the login name is Elena at mttech.com.live. Then next, and here user cannot change password, and the password doesn't expire. So here is the password for this employee. Next, finish. So here is an employee under the HR department. So this was how to add a user, and let's see our DNS record. Let's open the forward lookup zone. Under the forward lookup zone, we have automatically created. We did not actually create this. The domain created automatically the sales department. This is the name of the department, host sales department, and this is the IP address for the sales department. And if we ping this IP address from the server computer, ping 192.168.40, we should definitely ping that computer. So let's go back to our slides. Here is the next slide, DNS by zone type. And we have 5 types of zones. The first one is the primary zone. We get the pen. The primary zone stores the original writable copy of DNS records, and admins make changes here, and it contains full zone data. For example, if we have emptytech.live, all DNS records such as IP version 4 record, IP version 6 record, MX record, CNAME record, these records are stored here in primary zone. So what is the secondary zone? The secondary zone is a read-only copy of a primary zone. It just receives data through zone transfer, through this zone, primary zone, and it's used for redundancy and load balancing. If the primary zone fails, the secondary servers can still answer queries. That's why we configure secondary zones. And the third one, we have stub zones. A stub zone contains only NS record, SOA record, and glue A record. It has A record as well. It does not store full DNS records. And why do we use it for? We use it for the forward queries, maintain knowledge of authoritative servers. And here we have these two zones. The first one is the forward lookup zones. This resolves domain name into an IP address, such as if we enter emptytech.live, then it maps this name into an IP address. IP address 192.168.1.10. And this is the most common type, the forward lookup zone. And we have the reverse lookup zone. It resolves or it maps the IP address into a domain name. The first one was a domain name into an IP address, but the reverse lookup zone functions an IP address into a domain name. Such as if we enter 192.168.1.20, it changes, or 192.168.1.10, which is our domain server IP address, it changes or it maps it into the emptytech.live. So let's go back to our Windows Server 2025. So here is our Windows Server 2025. And here is our DNS manager. So here is our forward lookup zones. And this is the name of our domain, the address of our domain, which is here, emptytech. And the IP address for our domain is 192.168.1.10. If we ping this IP address from our client's machine, so this is our client's machine. Let's this time log in with another user. Another user was Elena at emptytech.live, and we enter the password for Elena, and let's wait for the computer to start. And here the computer logged on. Let's open the CMD. And let's ping the server 192.168.1.10. It definitely pings. And if we ping empty ping empty tech.live, it does ping as well. But if we ns lookup as name server lookup 192.168.1.10, it shows our server as unknown because we didn't configure the reverse lookup. So let's configure the reverse lookup in our server. So if we configure the reverse lookups, so we right click, new zone, next. Since it's our primary zone, and we select this server as our primary zone. Next, and to all DNS servers running on domain controller in this forest. Next, then IPv4 reverse lookup zone. Then we add the IP address of the server 192.168.1, the network ID. So actually this is the network ID for the domain server, and the reverse lookup zone name will seem like this: 168.192 in address RPA. Then we next, and we finish it. So here we created and configured the reverse lookup zone. So here we have in reverse lookup zone the name server as NS, as I told you. So empty-tech.live, and here is start of authority, which has the refresh interval, retry interval expires after 1 day. So this was all the theory that we studied. And here is the general, the name, the details, the information, and here the status. It's running. So everything works perfectly. So we activate this update associated pointer record to have our name server from unknown to known. So let's go back to our client's machine and let's see this time. Here we have the name of our server, empty-tech.live, and here is the IP address for our server 192.168.1.10. So if we ns lookup with the address 192.168.1.10, still we get the same information. Now from unknown, it's to a known domain, empty-tech.live. And here is the IP address. So let's turn on the pointer record for the sales department. It's already turned on. It's checked. Since it's only a client's machine, it's not a server. Still, we can ping it. Let's ping 192.68.1.40. We can ping it. And here is the sales department. Salesdepartment.emptytech.live. Let's ping through this name, ping sales department department.emptytech.live. Still, we could ping it. And so if we let's look up the 192.168.1.40 because it's not a server, it only shows the IP address and it's under the emptytech.emptytech.live. So it works. So let's create a new record, a record. So this time we say www.emptytech.live for which server? For 192.168.1.10. So here the record has been added and we can ping this record from the client's machine as ping www.emptytech.live. So it's pingable. This is called how to add a record and how to add a CNAME record with an alias name for this domain, like let's say book.emptytech.live, and who is the qualified domain. This is the qualified domain, and this is the CNAME record for this server. So here we have another record, and still we can ping from our client machine book.emptytech.live. So ping book.emptytech.live, and it's pingable. If we delete this record, we won't be able to ping this record. Let's delete it and let's try again. But the record is still in cache. So still it pings. Why? Because this computer has saved the record in cache and local cache book.emptytech.live, and it's still pingable as long as we don't flush the DNS record from this local machine. It can ping even if we delete it from the domain server. So let's apply this command as here ipconfig space/flush DNS. Sorry, I forgot the slash here. Yeah. The DNS resolver cache is cleared. Now we cannot be able to ping book.mttech.life. So this was all about the domain join computer, how we join a computer to a domain, and the complete explanation about the DNS records. Thank you for watching and have a nice time.